In a world where time seems to rush by faster with each passing day and the pressure to consume constantly surrounds us, there exists an alternative path, one that embraces the idea of a slower life. This may sound simple, yet its power is undeniable, particularly for those of us who have witnessed decades of change and perhaps now seek something quieter, more meaningful in our later years. As we grow older, we naturally begin to reconsider the role of consumerism in our lives. What once seemed essential often fades in importance as we age, and it becomes increasingly clear that material possessions don't hold the same weight they once did. In our younger years, society pushed us to believe that owning more meant achieving more, that the more things we accumulated, the more successful we became. Advertisements bombarded us with messages urging us to spend more, own more, and constantly strive to be more. But as time passes and wisdom settles in, many of us realize that true happiness doesn't come from material possessions. It doesn't lie in the latest gadgets, the most expensive cars, or the most luxurious vacations, all of which were marketed to us as the ultimate keys to contentment. In fact, consuming for the sake of consuming often leaves us feeling empty, unable to fulfill the deeper emotional and spiritual needs that we have. We live in a world where almost everything is monetized, and for those of us who remember a time when life moved at a gentler pace, this modern rush can feel overwhelming. However, there is an escape, and it doesn't require us to be swept up in this endless race anymore. In fact, as we reach an older age, it becomes not only acceptable, but even liberating to choose a different way, to opt out of the constant cycle of consumption and take the time to breathe, slow down, and live life at our own pace. Let me share a personal story. Many years ago, I made the decision to downsize. I sold my large home and moved into a smaller space, a narrowboat. If you're familiar with narrowboats, you'll know that they're small, measuring only 50 feet long and just under 7 feet wide. There isn't much room for stuff in such a confined space, and I had to make some tough choices about what I could keep and what I needed to let go of. Initially, it felt impossible. There was so much accumulated over the years, boxes of things I hadn't used in decades, kitchen gadgets I didn't even remember owning, and a mind-boggling number of coffee makers. But as I began to let go of all these things, something remarkable happened. I felt lighter, almost as though I was shedding not just physical possessions, but also emotional weight. Moving into that small space and taking only what I truly needed gave me a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. It felt like a burden was lifted from me, similar to the mythical Atlas finally shrugging off the weight of the world. Even if you're not planning to downsize or move into a smaller living situation, I encourage you to try something similar. Go through your kitchen, your closets, and your garage, and get rid of the things you no longer need or use. Don't hold on to everything just because it's there. You'll be surprised at how much lighter you feel when you simplify your environment. The act of clearing out your space has a way of clearing your mind too. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against capitalism. In fact, I believe it can be a functional system. Businesses create products and services that make our lives easier, and they earn a profit in return for the work they put in, which seems fair. For example, if someone bakes a loaf of bread and sells it to me for a price higher than it cost to make, I have no issue with that. They've put in the effort and I'm happy to pay for the convenience. The problem arises, however, when the balance is tipped too far. When we start consuming simply for the sake of consuming, without truly needing the things we buy, that's when the system becomes problematic. The beauty of capitalism is that it's competitive. If one company charges too much for a product, another will come along and offer it for less, creating choices for the consumer. But the downside is that we often get caught in an endless cycle of buying more. always chasing the next product, the next trend, the next fleeting pleasure. As we get older, we realize that so much of what we thought we needed wasn't really necessary at all. Life isn't about having the newest phone or the most fashionable clothes. It's about the experiences we share, the relationships we nurture, and the quiet moments of reflection we allow ourselves. Choosing a slower, less materialistic life means going against the grain, rejecting the societal norms that encourage constant consumption, and instead focusing on what truly adds value to our lives. In a culture that's always on the go, constantly buying and relentlessly chasing something new, choosing to step off that treadmill may make you feel like you're in the minority. But being in the minority can be surprisingly beautiful. When you choose to live more simply, without the endless desire for more possessions, your perspective on life changes. You begin to notice things that may have previously passed you by: the soft rustling of leaves in the wind, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the quiet moments of reflection that bring peace and contentment. These things can't be bought, yet they offer a richness that money simply cannot provide. Living simply doesn't mean depriving yourself. It means being intentional with your choices, focusing on what truly brings you joy, and letting go of the excess. It's about slowing down enough to appreciate the life you already have, rather than always striving for what you think you need. At first, you might feel like an outsider, and those close to you might not understand your choice to live more minimally. But with time, the peace that comes from slowing down and consuming less will far outweigh the discomfort of standing apart. You'll find that living simply, while unconventional in today's fast-paced world, leads to greater fulfillment and deeper happiness. As we age, the things that bring us joy often become simpler. The grand experiences we once sought may no longer hold the same allure. Instead, we find happiness in the small things, things we might have overlooked or taken for granted in our youth. The quiet pleasure of sipping a cup of tea on a crisp morning, the joy of spending time with loved ones, or the contentment of watching birds at the feeder. These small moments become the treasures of life, and they often cost nothing. That's the beauty of slow living. When you're no longer caught up in the whirlwind of consumerism, you begin to see value in things that don't have a price tag. Perhaps you'll start gardening, growing your own vegetables or flowers. Maybe you'll finally pick up that book you've been meaning to read, or revisit a hobby you once loved but never had time for. The key is that by removing the distractions of constant consumption, you create space for these simple joys, and they'll nourish you far longer than any material possession ever could. Let's be honest, the pull of consumerism is strong. Even after making the conscious decision to live a simpler life, you'll still face temptations. It's easy to get caught up in the allure of sales, advertisements, or even the simple urge to buy something new because it feels good in the moment. How many times have we all found ourselves browsing online, not needing anything, but ending up with a shopping cart full of things that provide only temporary satisfaction? That's the seduction of consumerism. It convinces us that we need things we don't. But here's the good news. The more you practice resisting these urges, the easier it becomes. Like any habit, breaking free from mindless spending takes time, but the rewards are worth it. Start small. Try going a day without buying anything, then 2, then a week. Over time, you'll find that the urge to consume fades, and you'll feel more at peace with what you already have. When you stop spending so much time and money on acquiring things, you'll notice you have more space in your life, both literally and figuratively. What will you do with that space? The possibilities are endless, but the key is to fill it with activities that bring meaning and joy. Maybe you'll take up knitting or start walking in the park every morning. Perhaps you'll spend more time with your grandchildren, sharing stories from your past and passing on the wisdom you've gained. Or maybe you'll devote more time to a hobby or craft that you've always enjoyed but never fully pursued. The point is that when you're no longer focused on acquiring things, you can focus on doing things. Things that nourish your soul and bring you a deeper sense of fulfillment. These activities, though simple, are incredibly rewarding, and they don't require you to open your wallet. Living a slow, simple life in today's world isn't without its challenges. You'll face resistance, not just from others, but also from within yourself. We've all been conditioned to believe that success and happiness are tied to what we own, and it can be hard to let go of that belief. Society pushes a narrative of consumption because it benefits those in power. The more we spend, the more they gain. Choosing to step outside of that system means going against the grain, and that can feel uncomfortable at times. You may feel isolated or misunderstood, especially when you see friends or family members continuing to live in ways that no longer resonate with you. But take heart. The discomfort is temporary, and the rewards of living a simpler, more intentional life are profound. Over time, the pressures of society will have less of a hold on you, and you'll find peace in knowing that you're living in alignment with your values. The journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. One of the biggest advantages of living a slow life is the financial freedom it brings. When you stop buying things you don't really need, you begin to save money, and that money can be used for things that truly matter, whether it's spending time traveling to visit family, investing in your health, or simply creating a financial cushion that brings peace of mind in your later years. Living simply reduces the financial pressure that many of us feel as we grow older. Instead of working tirelessly to maintain a lifestyle based on constant consumption, you can focus on enjoying the fruits of your labor and cherishing the things that bring you true joy. You may even come to realize that you need far less income than you once thought to live a fulfilling life. The constant chase for material possessions diminishes, and instead you begin to appreciate life's deeper, more meaningful elements. As we age, reflection naturally becomes a significant part of our lives. We look back on the choices we've made, the experiences we've had, and the lessons we've learned along the way. Living a slow and simple life provides the space for this reflection to unfold in a profound and meaningful way. When I reflect on my own journey, I don't regret the things I didn't buy or the trends I didn't follow. What I cherish most are the moments spent with loved ones, the quiet joy I found in simple experiences, and the deep sense of peace that came from living a life aligned with my core values. Sure, I've made mistakes along the way, but I wouldn't change a thing. The path I've chosen, one of slow, intentional living, has brought me a level of contentment and happiness that no amount of possessions could ever replace. As we near the later stages of life, many of us begin to think about the legacy we'll leave behind. What do we want to be remembered for? For me, it's not about leaving behind material wealth or possessions. It's about the values I've lived by: simplicity, mindfulness, and an appreciation for the things that truly matter. I hope that my children and grandchildren will learn from my example, not by the things I owned, but by the way I chose to live. I hope they will see that true happiness doesn't come from having more, but from appreciating the simple joys of life. And I hope they'll carry this lesson forward, finding their own paths to peace and contentment, just as I have. As we grow older, our health becomes one of the most important aspects of our lives. In a world that often prioritizes productivity and material success over well-being, it's easy to forget to take proper care of ourselves. Living a slow life encourages us to focus on our health, both mental and physical. By making space for rest, self-care, and mindfulness, we give ourselves the time to truly listen to our bodies. We begin to recognize when we need rest, when we need to move, and when we need to nourish ourselves with healthy food and positive experiences. This awareness is one of the key benefits of slow living. Instead of pushing ourselves to the brink, trying to keep up with a fast-paced lifestyle for the sake of accumulating more things or maintaining a busy schedule, we can focus on staying active, eating well, and nurturing our mental well-being. For many of us, this shift toward simplicity also leads to a deeper connection with nature. Whether it's taking regular walks in a local park, tending to a garden, or simply sitting outside to enjoy the fresh air, connecting with the natural world has immense benefits for our health. Studies have shown that spending time in nature reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, and improves mental clarity. In a slow life, health is not an afterthought, it's a priority. And with less pressure to keep up with the hectic pace of modern life, we have the opportunity to focus on the most important thing of all, our well-being. By caring for ourselves in this way, we can enjoy a higher quality of life, both now and in the years to come. Choosing to live a slow, simple life, spending less, and finding peace in simplicity may not be the easiest path to take, but it is one of the most rewarding. It allows us to step away from the constant pressure to consume and instead focus on the things that truly matter: relationships, meaningful experiences, and inner peace. For those of us in the later stages of life, this approach offers a chance to reflect on what is most important, to let go of what's unnecessary, and to live with a sense of contentment and fulfillment. The journey toward a simpler life is one worth taking, and I invite you to join me on this path. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you found these stories inspiring and motivating, please subscribe and comment. Your feedback truly means a lot to us, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my reflections.